Now, the question I'm going to ask you though, out of this, now everyone knows what these 9 elements are. The question I want to ask you is this. If you were to pick out 2 things out of this, other than culture, okay? Culture is there. Culture is, we share, 600 employees share the same culture. Leave culture aside. If you were to take 2 things that you think is the most powerful in making the organization healthy, what would it be? So I just want you to think about it. I don't want you to raise any answers and give me. If you had to pick 2 things out of everything there, excepting culture, what was the 2 things that you would pick up and then hone in to say that if we do this properly, then the organization's health index will be significantly enhanced? Okay, think about that for a second. Because as you're thinking, I'm going to ask you, what is the 2 that you have picked? And then I think it's an exercise I'm doing to get you to understand the deep dive meaning of each of these things that is up there. It's not something for you to just memorize and forget it. But each of this is important. For example, I give you, and to make it easy for you, what I put is I put the 3 C's together. Okay? Culture, competencies, and coordination. I put it in one line, so it's easy to know. 3 C's. Okay? Now, coordination is all our teamwork and the policies that actually come together that runs our systems. Every system is uniquely created to produce an output that the system is created for. Now, if you create a system of creating nuts and bolts and expect burgers to come at the end of it, it's not going to happen. If you want burgers to come out of it, you need to create a system that creates burgers. So similarly, every system that has an output is dependent on how we've actually constructed it. And that is through our policies and so on and so on. And then the teamwork that comes around it to make it happen. So that's coordination. So, Jay, if I were to ask you, what 2 things would you pick out of these 9 that you think is very important?
So I think vision and innovation and learning.
Innovation and learning. Okay, let's park it there. Vision and innovation and learning. Tansi.
Coordination and competency.
Coordination and competency. Okay, Aleka?
I would say innovation and learning and competency.
Competency. Okay, Matthew?
Motivation and accountability.
Motivation and accountability. Okay. Good. Keith, yeah.
I'd say leadership and innovation and learning for this reason. A leader has to be a lifelong learner. So then all those other things become subject of the innovation and learning. So unless you have a leader who is innovative and learning these other things to lead the organization in such a way that those other things happen, you're not going to get through.
Okay.
So vision comes out of learning, vision, and all those other things come out of innovation and learning by the leadership.
Okay. I suppose that's why leadership is in there. Leadership is one of the,
that's one of the keys.
One of the key things that got.
Yeah, I would say culture and leadership.
Culture and leadership. Okay, the 2 things in the middle. Okay. Now, there's no wrong answer here because all the 9 things that are there are absolutely important for an organization to be healthy. So I'm going to leave that slide there, and then I'm going to ask another question. This is called a follow-up question. Okay? And the follow-up question will go to Joel. What do you think you're doing here, Joel, in terms of what is your role in the organization?
It's to increase communication internally and externally and make sure that our organization is perceived in the way we want by the rest of the world.
Okay, so that's what your job is. Dr. Matthew, what is your job?
I think look at the bigger picture, the vision that the leaders are having, and try to get everyone, including the employees, aligned into that.
Okay, let me ask Harita.
I think my role here is more of innovation and learning, accountability, and of course competencies.
Okay. Yes, Rika, you've been very quiet there. What what do you think is most important here? Keith gave an explanation as to why leadership is important, but what do you think? Because all nine are important, but there are a couple of things that are very critical.
Mine was similar perspective. Looking at innovation and learning and leadership. I was taking leadership because leadership comes with a number of elements together. So if you're a good leader, you're supposed to have
Okay, but you know, in lots of ways, that's all interlinked. You know, there's nothing standing in isolation. All of this is interlinked. Now, okay,
So I think coordination is a very important thing.
coordination. That's teamwork.
Innovation and learning, and then coordination.
Coordination. Okay. Okay, let me give you some raw statistics now, because this 9 things did not simply come out of nowhere. It's, groups of researchers have actually looked at the key things, and out of this 9 things comes several subsets, and there are the so-called 37 competencies that leadership have if you need to sort of pay attention to the health of the organization. Okay, now 37 is too much even for me to sort of figure out, and I will stick to the 9. Now, they say that, no, I haven't finished, I got interrupted. Tansil, what is your job role here?
So my job role is I understand my accountability to the vision what the hospital has set up for the entire organization. Then I'll realize my input in that, my accountability that is, and then what best in my competency I can give it to align to this vision is my role.
Tansil, your master's is really working. I'm just so glad to see. That is the answer. Now, when I ask 600 employees what your job role is, your job role might be completely different. But unless your paramount focus is on the vision, the direction of which this organization is going, then you will be, a finance guy, you will be an ENT guy, you will be, whatever it is. For us as an organization, we need to absolutely be clear about our vision. That's why you are here. The why question that, now you raised. The why question is, why are we here at AMH? We are here at AMH to fulfill the vision and the mission of the organization at all times. And your job role might be different. You might be head of WAR, you might be head of IT, doesn't matter. That is your technical side. But at the end of the day, we have to be fully aligned, as Dr. Matthew said, to the vision and the direction at which the organization is going. The danger for any organization is if you see your job role as only an OR manager, as only an ENT surgeon, or only an IT person, or only as a QI person, there is a problem. Because when we talk about staff engagement, what is a staff engagement scope? Most people think that staff engagement is, am I happy in the job? Okay? It's all about me and I. No. Staff engagement is, in my role as being the CEO, or my role as being the head of IT, or my role as being HR, can I bring myself to align to the vision of the organization? And am I happy that I'm working in an organization where the mission statement gives me goosebumps? Now, if intellectually in your head, you can say, yeah, I know the mission, vision, but in your heart, you cannot engage with the mission or the vision of the organization, forget it. Your motivation drops. There's no accountability for what you do because, you come in and do your work. I'm here for 8 hours to kind of check the box that I've done my bit. If it's a position, my CEO is okay, so I don't care about the rest. And you're not a team player. There's no coordination of anything. You know what? It's me, and what I want goes. It's got nothing to do me working with others to fulfill the mission, vision of it. So when I look at the AMH, OHI, okay, it's not about what your exact job role is. Are you fully aligned to the direction or the vision in which the organization is going? That is important. If you cannot align with that, then the rest of all of that isn't there. Your external orientation, innovation, learning, motivation, and most importantly, accountability. Okay? If there was 2 things I was to pick, it's vision and accountability. Now, your accountability comes from your specific job. And this, by the way, is not mine. This has been analyzed through hundreds of organizations, thousands of employees. Gallup has done studies and studies on this that have shown that if an employee is not accountable to what he or she does in the organization and is not aligned to the vision of the organization, that employee will fail in the organization. His or her satisfaction with the organization will begin to drop. His or her engagement within the organization will begin to drop, because the employee will look at his or her role through what's in it for me, rather than the big picture of what is it that I can do to contribute to the vision and the mission of this organization. Because the moment that flip happens in your brain, what happens is the focus comes from within you to external focus. And they have found this in repeated studies, that when that flip happens, you become much more happier. Let me also ask you another question. How many of you feel happy helping someone else who is in need of help? Does that give you happiness, or does this take away happiness? Okay. For 99% of people, when you help someone in a time of need, it's not that you're expecting anything in return, but your oxytocin, all the hormones in your brain begins to flow, and that gives you a good feeling that you've done something for someone. Not in return, but you've done it. The key question for leadership is to how do you tap into this neuro-behavioral, neurochemistry, neurohormonal things to actually bring it into the workspace so that employees begin to get engaged. We have high staff engagement scores. We are 80, 81, which is pretty high. They say that if you have 70 and above, you're pretty good. But what if we could get staff engagement closer to a 90? Because the staff are fully engaged to what we are doing as an organization and where we're going. And it's not about what personal perks do I get in. That's no longer the question. Okay? And, the mission of our organization is actually covered in CFG. Okay? So if we can bring a little bit of compassion, love, and grace into our workspace, okay? Some of us have a lot of compassion, love, and grace at home. Some of us do not even have that at home, sadly. Okay? So when you lack that at home, you certainly can't bring it on into the organization. And that becomes very difficult. So what I'm telling you today is, if you can see your role in the organization, because you are stakeholders too. All of the employees of this organization are stakeholders to the mission and vision that we have actually created. And if you're a stakeholder, you need to be engaged. And it's like, you've invested in a company because you put your money in the company, and that's your stake. And you can't put your money in the company and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to sit back and then allow somebody else to ruin it. It's your money gone. So similarly, this is your career, this is your professional, this is your time. You come and work for an organization. You don't want to be sitting there wasting your time. You could be doing something else. So you are stakeholders in this. And if you're stakeholders in this, my plea to you is this. You need to be absolutely engaged in the vision and the mission of the organization. As Dr. Matthew said, it is our role to kind of shepherd everyone into sort of focusing on that, rather than saying, you know what, that's not my job. That's not stated in my job description. There's a lot of things not stated in the job description, but actually the real joy and the pleasure comes from doing things outside of the job description. Yeah. The joy is not, the joy that comes from within your job description is your salary. You get your salary, your wages. But what you do outside of your job description, that's where the real joy in life comes from. Your purpose, the greater purpose of life actually comes from that. And to me, compassion, grace, and love is the medium that we can express it. We are not robots. We need to express, how we feel as human beings. And if you can't express it to another human being, then the other human being is not going to express it to you. And this emotional dance, you talked about dance, this emotional dance between patient and provider happens all the time In any encounter, we have a patient, whether it's in radiology, whether it's in the OR, whether it's in the outpatients, wherever it is, so that it is this give and take. It's not all about taking. So we need to understand this better than our patients do. And if we understand this, then patient care on the front line is a piece of cake. I'm going to leave you with one more slide with 3 other letters. Anybody can tell me what ESG is? A lot of you can tell me what ESG is. What is ESG?
Environment, sustainability and governance.
There's environment, okay, it's not sustainability. It's environment, social, and governance. And you will hear about it in the next huddle. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.